Hello, dear friends. My name is Vasyl Pekhnio. I'm a Ukrainian journalist, and I invite all of you to watch this latest update on Ukrainian battle map situation as of August the 27th. So please join, watch this video, like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's begin to make this overview over Ukrainian front.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
So let's start the discussion. Let's begin with some not so pleasant news related to announcements from the deep state resource. In particular, this news concerns the fact that for the first time in a while, the deep state map has marked Russian advances already on the territory of Dnipro region within two settlements. Here you can see this area, which is now shaded with hatching, indicating newly captured territories. These are the two villages of Novorihorivka and Zaporizhzhia. The General Staff claims that this village, Zaporizhzhia, has not been captured, that fighting is allegedly taking place only in Novorihorivka, and that Zaporizhzhia is controlled by the defense forces. The General Staff, the spokespeople of the General Staff, well, honestly, after the previous situation with Dvorobilia, when the spokesperson of the General Staff also talked about a minor advance, Russian breakthroughs of 5 to 10 people, and then the next day, the First Corps of the Azov National Party came out with a statement saying that just in the first day, 150 enemy personnel were eliminated, while before that it was 5 to 10. Well, somehow it just doesn't add up. It doesn't fit together. So honestly, I have more trust in this right now at this very moment. I'm not dismissing the official information from the General Staff, but I do think we need to work on our strategic communications, because deep state I actually know very well the guys and girls who work on this map. They never make changes arbitrarily. For them to make any changes, they need to have a well-considered decision and the appropriate approval of that decision based on the data they already have. Although, of course, none of us are perfect, and deep state also sometimes makes mistakes. Accordingly, what is happening in Novosergivka, Zaporizhzhia region, in any case, yes, this can be described with loud headlines, and most likely that's how it will be spread. With loud headlines saying that the enemy is already in Dnipropetrovsk region, the first two villages. But overall, and honestly, for me, this is not a sensation at all. I'll explain why. This is an obvious reality because the war has been in Dnipropetrovsk region for a long time already, so nothing is really changing on a global scale. There have been battles on the approaches to Dnipropetrovsk region, on the border of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. There have actually been battles already on the territory of the Dnipropetrovsk region, because the enemy's presence in Dnipropetrovsk is not measured only by these two settlements right now. I can name at least 5 or 6 settlements. So first, this region we're talking about, where the enemy has broken through, according to the latest data from Deep State, includes Novorihorivka, Zaporizhzhia, as well as the villages of Malivka, Vorone, Dakhne, and Filia. So the gray zone has also expanded towards Filia. That is, all of this is in the Dnipropetrovsk region. And there's nothing unusual here in the sense that the enemy is having successes here. In principle, they have both successes and failures. In some places, our counter-successes have taken place. In others, the enemy has made advances. The most important thing for me, honestly, on the Donetsk front, whether at Novopavlivka or in the direction of Pokrovsk or Dobropilia, is that there is now a hint that not only the enemy holds the initiative. That is, initiative is a very important concept in military affairs. Who sets the tone for combat operations? Who determines their intensity? Who decides how many assaults there will be? And who is planning the advance there or otherwise? Accordingly, when you lack initiative, when you don't impose your initiative on the enemy, you're playing to their tune. And what our troops have recently started to succeed at is trying to impose the initiative, both near Dobropilia, near Pokrovsk, and even in some places here on the Novopavlivka direction. But there is also, no one is saying that the situation has already completely changed to some kind of total positive. No, there are still signs that the Russians are advancing, and in some locations, specifically here in the south of Donetsk region, and also in the north to some extent, because right now this entire Novopavlivka section of the front is very intense. Here, the enemy has the initiative, but in the middle, let's put it that way, in the middle, our units are trying to take the initiative. So it's all happening as a kind of head-on confrontation. At the moment, there's no need to make a big story out of it. I would also like to draw attention to the fact that the enemy is also present in the Malivka area. Just the other day, I showed a video from the 225th Assault Regiment in Voronove, which is trying to drive the enemy out of the gray zone in Voronove. In principle, the 225th has been conducting sweeps here for some time now, trying to eliminate the enemy who in turn is trying to dig in here. Now, two more settlements have been added, Zaporizhzhye and Novogeorgiivka. Honestly, I don't see the need here to use such strict official communication, insisting that no, nothing like that happened. It did happen. It's just the enemy advancing, just ongoing fighting, nothing more. And the more we highlight it, the more weight we give to this kind of communication, the more it will provoke a certain social stir and pressure. I'll go even further and say that just the other day, there was even an incident when two Russian motorbikes broke through into Sosnivka. Right here in the Novopavlivka direction, they were destroyed. Those were the two motorcyclists who broke through there. So honestly, I don't really see the need for the general staff to so persistently and steadfastly keep issuing denials that everything is fine, everything is under control, everything is good. Because, well, in some places, let's be objective, that's not the case. That's not the case, in my opinion. I'm curious, if we talk about the communication with Lyman, is everything fine there too? No, well, listen, not everything is great here, not everything is perfect. Right now, to be objective, the Serebriansky railway is almost lost. Even though our soldiers are doing everything necessary and everything they can to delay these scenarios as much as possible, the story of the defense of the Serebriansky railway is coming to an end. To its logical conclusion, it can't go on any longer. Just as the story of holding the left bank of the Zherebets River is also coming to an end, as I have said many times before, this worsens our situation, our defense in the direction of Lyman and in the direction of Siversk. Once again, for the 100th time, I repeat, and this also needs to be communicated. Of course, these aren't as sensational headlines as writing that fighting has begun in Siversk or that the enemy is retreating long before Lyman. It's not as hyped, especially when it comes to Siversk. Well, what is Siversk? It might seem that way. It's not as hyped as the borders of Dnipropetrovsk region, but that's the objective reality. That's war. We are retreating. Yes, in some places we are retreating. The main task is to preserve our troops, to destroy the enemy, not to measure everything solely in terms of retreat. Although, of course, ideally it would be different. No one is happy about the fact that we are retreating. Here we also have some general questions regarding organizational issues on this section of the front. And just blindly saying in a propagandistic way that everything is fine, everything is under control, the defense forces are in control, everything will be all right. Well, that would also be wrong, because the situation here, to put it mildly, is far from ideal. To put it mildly, it's not the best, but there are areas where the situation is improving for us as well, particularly in the Dobropilia area. Here, some very interesting events are taking place because our soldiers, as I mentioned earlier, there were recorded enemy drops, unfortunately, in Malinivka. In the same way, there was activity from our troops in Novoekonomikne, and activity from our troops in Volodymyrivka, which, according to the commander-in-chief's assurances, was liberated and cleared on Independence Day. So right now, work is underway to try to cut off this enemy salient. I still urge everyone to refrain from this, yes, indiscriminate victory frenzy in anticipation that we'll just now encircle the Russians in some kind of cauldrons and so on, because the enemy has also managed to avoid the worst-case scenarios here so far. But as for this enemy salient, which really is like a stretched-out sausage, from a military tactics standpoint, this is a very dangerous maneuver that the Russians have carried out here, breaking through deep without securing and expanding their flanks. So this is a very dangerous maneuver that actually threatens them with a retreat. And at the moment, as of now, the Russians have somewhat secured themselves. In other words, they have prevented the worst-case scenario that could have happened here, which would be a very rapid encirclement of their troops. But overall, as the saying goes, water wears away stone, and our forces are working at the base of this salient. I won't provide any more additional information here so as not to cause harm. A certain level of informational silence is needed here, as they say. But based on the available known data, without delving into any insider information, I emphasize this, and now I am stating only what is publicly available. We can talk about certain successes, for example, Volodymyrivka, which was recently cleared according to our commander-in-chief, Alexander Syrskyi. Yesterday, there was news from the 253rd Assault Battalion, ARE. These are units of the Ukrainian Volunteer Army. So they have achieved precisely this tactical success here. As I understand it, they took part in this clearing operation and captured, attention, 11 Russian army servicemen at once, among them 3 special forces operatives from military intelligence, known as the Main Intelligence Directorate of the Russian Federation. And the rest of the servicemen are from military unit 422600, the 110th Brigade, which was deployed to the occupied territories of Donetsk region. This, in fact, is a greeting and a response to us about what awaits us if this enemy continues to advance. And among these servicemen of the 110th Donetsk Brigade, there are at least 3 Ukrainian citizens. One is from Makivka, another from Mariupol, and the third is from Kropivnitsky. He said Kirovohrad, using the old name from Kropivnitsky, but he had lived for a long time in Kamchatka. But all of them are Ukrainian citizens. By the way, even the one from Mariupol was mobilized into the Russian army and went to serve in the so-called special military operation in 2024. These are the kinds of scenarios that await us if the Russians push through. And it's precisely about being captured near Volodymyrivka. This is what our soldiers from the Are battalion are talking about how the enemy's flanks are being cut off here. We'll see how things develop further. In fact, it's necessary to observe a certain pause here. And today I want to pay special attention to just how much scum our enemies really are. What are they doing to civilians in Kherson? Only God knows. Honestly, it's just abuse. So I'll show you now what kind of abuse this is. The Russians are acting very intensively. Well, of course, they cover it up as logistics, but they have no qualms about striking not at military targets, but at civilians. And with this kind of terror tactics, they try to influence the minds of Kherson and Mykolaiv residents. This road here is the M14 highway, which connects Mykolaiv and Kherson. Right now, it's under very heavy fire from the enemy beyond Kherson, and it's especially intense when it comes to targeting civilians. The enemy is shelling this highway of ours very, very actively. Here are some photos like this. As you can see, these are civilian cars, completely civilian vehicles. There's not even a hint of anything military here. They're destroying them. This is what the photo looks like. Yes, this is what the video of the movement of the Russia, our troops, looks like. And not just our troops. These are specifically our soldiers just filming themselves moving. Yes, there are nets stretched there, but I understand they haven't been fully spread out everywhere yet. But the Russians don't care. They strike indiscriminately, civilians, military, at anything that moves, anything that seems suspicious to them, or anything they just feel like hitting. That's exactly the kind of strikes they carry out. And when they fire, well, they really are scum. They don't hesitate to target civilians at all. Remember that story about what they were doing? Even the Western press wrote about it, how they organized safaris in Kherson, bringing in their rookie FPV pilots, rookie aviation pilots, who would carry out airdrops here. So they brought these rookies here to teach them how to carry out airdrops, including on civilians. If needed, they could also target some officials like our emergency workers or our police officers. I mean, not those who are directly involved in combat, but those who maintain order, who are government employees. They carried out drops and strikes on them, and at the same time terrorized the civilian population as well. I hope that YouTube won't ban this video I'm about to show, but this is just the height of utter idiocy. Take a look at the video that Russians are bragging about in their public channels. What do we see in it? A civilian man in Kherson went out to walk his dog, and a drone drops ammunition in his direction. Of course, it misses, thank God, but they do drop it. The grenade lands nearby. The dog is clearly stunned. The man immediately picks it up and heads home. The Russians are watching him, following him, and mocking him, and they, well, show this in their public channels, and they take pleasure in it. Everyone survived, everyone survived. But it's not certain that everyone is okay. But this is such idiocy, I simply can't even describe it. I can't even imagine it. What kind of depravity is this? What can we even talk about here? What negotiations? What is Trump even talking about when he says that supposedly we, meaning Ukraine, aren't making a deal with the Russians just because Zelensky doesn't like Putin? Are you serious? Just look at what their entire nation is doing, those who come here and what they do here. Just look at this. How can all of this even be happening? The Russians are hitting Kherson with KABs. The Russians are carrying out FPV strikes right on the road I just pointed out. There are constant enemy losses along this road. The Russians are doing the most malicious things possible, and they will keep doing it. We need to understand this and find a way to defend ourselves. And I won't be giving anything away if I say that back in April. Yes, I talked about the fact that we face significant threats to many of our cities, including regional centers. That is, this includes Chernihiv, yes, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv, and Sloviansk, Kramatorsk in terms of being targeted by Russian drones, which will only become more long range, as always. Of course, our own systems are also gaining greater range. This includes Dnipro, Zaporizhzhia, Marhanets, Nikopol, and Kherson. All these settlements fall within the strike zone. Well, of course, Dnipro for now, thank God, is not affected, but Zaporizhzhia, rest assured, Zaporizhzhia is a city of 1 million people. The Russians, who are now pushing towards Stepnohersk, have only one, well, potentially two goals, one terrorist and one logistical. But the terrorist goal is to reach the southern outskirts of Zaporizhzhia. That is what they are aiming for. Logistically, their goal is to try to affect the logistics of Orikhiv. but simply to terrorize and torment the civilian population. They just, well, honestly, I am at a loss for words. I simply don't have the words to describe it. That's the situation. We are fighting against such an enemy. Honestly, there is absolutely nothing to talk about with them, 0.0, because they are not willing to agree to anything. We all perfectly understand that we have to play this play for the sake of Donald Trump and somehow try to curry favor with him. Probably yes. Those are my conclusions for today. I would appreciate it if you share your thoughts on this in the comments, like this video, and subscribe to our channel. Take care of yourselves, all the best, and see you next time.